Thank you for joining Beyond Abuse channel. And today I want to talk about the 10 things that an abuser or a narcissist or a cluster B personality is looking for in regards to taking advantage, exploiting, abusing, and conning. Because when we understand what we're dealing with and what's out there, it becomes our strength and our power instead of the weakness that helps to keep us stuck. So the first one, I say trust. They need to gain our trust and not to question what they do, say, and who they are, because that trust is what allows them to hide in the shadows where we can't see what it is they're really doing. Not see it as a reality with our own eyes, but also not to feel that we're being exploited. The second one is hope. They need us to be very hopeful, to be able to believe that there is another chance, that we're going to get what it is that we need at the end of the rainbow, because the hope is what keeps us tied to them, keeps us tied to our abuser, the con person, for the long haul. Eventually, at one point or another, we will wake up. We will understand to some level that it's very dysfunctional and that there's something weird going on. But in time, it becomes to unravel. Honesty. They need us to tell them exactly what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it. It's like being in a con job with playing cards. They want to see all the cards laid on the table. They want to know exactly what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it, so they can do it around us and what it appears to be our needs. But really what they're doing is they're not trying to accommodate. They're trying to play the next move off of yours. If you hold back the cards, they don't know how to play them. So because we are open and honest and we put all our cards on the table, it makes it easier for them to play the next move. The fourth one is love. Once they've gained our love, that's like an anchor. It helps us to stay put, because that love that they're incapable of giving us, they understand that there is a tie there that makes it hard for us to get away. It's hard for us to see reality because we end up in this fog of this love. So love is very important, and why they will typically rush you through that process of going through love and being engaged soon and marrying soon, or telling you they love you soon off. It's part of the honeymoon stage, because they understand that that will keep you stuck and them in the position of power. They don't have to risk what we think that we would lose. They're not in the love position. And so they recognize that that gives them leverage. So the fifth one is vulnerability, something that they're not capable of. They're not capable of being vulnerable. They won't let you in on the true self inside of them. They can't be vulnerable, which means your vulnerability they will use against you. And that's why they have learned that they can't be vulnerable with anyone at a very young age, that typically cannot be undone. The sixth one is empathy. They can't have empathy, so they want you to have empathy. They want you to feel sorry for them, give them attention, and that again is an extension of that love connection. If you have empathy for them and what they've done wrong, and you feel bad for their situation, their past, their lack of ability, whatever it might be, that keeps us stuck in it, and also ties in with our possibility of hope. The seventh one is generosity. A kind person wants someone who's going to be generous. They don't want to have to fight for someone. They're not the person that comes to rob you and has the gun. They want to be able to convince you and con you to just give it all over to them very easily by just suggestion, just by hinting, just by that they can get you to just do it out of the goodness of your heart and your love. That's much easier. That's what a con person does. That is what a passive-aggressive con person does, or a covert person does. They come in the back door and they're looking to exploit you to get their needs met. And so this is also a key important trait that you must have. The next one is lack of awareness. You need to not understand your own self-worth. You must not be able to see that things are not in your favor. That is the ability for them to play off of it, to strip it away a little bit more. And if you understood that things were not fair, if you understood that this game was not in your favor, you wouldn't play the game. It's a game, I say, because for them it's a game. It was never a game for us as the person who is abused. But that's how they see it. That's how they play it. And so when we look back, we have to see it from their perspective. Otherwise, we fall back into the trap of thinking that it was the same for them that it was for us, when it was not. The next one is forgiveness. Forgiveness. We needed to have forgiveness in our heart to allow them to continue to do the things they're doing and not keep up a whole running track of everything. And at some level we did, but then we would forgive. We'd be like, you did this before, why are you doing it again? And they would say they were sorry, and we would say, okay. And we would give, certain list of changes or things that need to be met, but it never actually got to where it needed to go. It never moved past that point of them always doing something. If they're sadistic, passive aggressive, they're doing things purposely, and we didn't see that that's what they were doing, but they needed us to be a forgiving heart. They needed us to have pain. They needed to have past unresolved pain, to have a pain body that they could tap into and use that vulnerability of us, and the things that we have shared with them were pain points. They needed to trigger them. They needed to keep those wounds open and not allow us to help them heal. That was part of the abuse cycle. That was like us telling a person who's going to rob us where our gun is. And your greatest fear is to be shot in a certain place. That is what the con person will do. They will take your vulnerability, use it as a weapon against you. So, what do we do once we realize those are all positive things that we treasure? But unfortunately, after the abuse, we start to lose the trust, the hope, our ability to feel that we can be honest with people again, ability to love, to be vulnerable, to show empathy, to be generous again, to want to share our pain, and be able to forgive. We now don't want to forgive. We're like, that's it, I'm done. I have been through this cycle too many times. But the thing that takes us out of it goes back to the awareness. The one thing that we were lacking, the other things were positive, but the awareness was not. And our ability to have boundaries in our life and see truly our value. Because when we see something as valuable, let's say it's our home or our car, we lock it, we keep it protected, we take care of it. We forgot to take care of ourselves, and often the balance of the trust and the hope and honesty was one-sided. It was all on our side, and they stripped it away because those are all the things I've listed as traits. They're not trustworthy. They don't really have any hope in them for change or to be any of the things that we have been with them in the relationship. They don't have the ability to love. They can't be vulnerable. They have no empathy. They have no generosity, not truly without wanting something back in return. They have a pain body in them, but they're not connected to it. They shut it off, and they don't forgive. And they're often sadistically showing pain back at us by their reactions, and we don't understand that this is part of their punishment. They do also have a lack of awareness, lack of responsibility. We have taken on responsibility for them. but we haven't necessarily seen our own lack of awareness because we saw it as something that was egotistical, self-centered if we thought about ourselves. But after being in an abusive relationship, we can start to recognize how painful it is not to be taking care of ourselves. Con people come in like robbing a house. They come in not as someone with a ski mask and a gun, but someone who acts like a friend, who waits for us to be on vacation, watches our pets, and somehow or other things disappear. That is what the abuser does. They wait for the moment, the opportunity. And oftentimes, probably, they came in when someone else was taking care of the pet, so they would know the other person would be responsible, but they both had keys. That's the type of thing that the abuser does. They wait for the opportunity. They hide in the shadows. We were the beacon of light of all the things that shone out of a crowd. That person has those wonderful traits. They would never tell us those were wonderful things and want us to lead that way in the world. They wanted to exploit it. They only wanted them to know it. They didn't want us to know it. But now awareness is our key out of abuse now and in the future. Because once we understand and we know the value that we hold with all the wonderful traits of what we gave before, that we sometimes are void of, like we don't have any trust left to give. We feel like we have no love to give. We feel like we've been exploited and we're now empty because they've drained us from it. We first need to start giving it to ourselves so we can build it up again and give it out strategically. Give it to those who deserve it and not those who will exploit it. There is much peace, love, and joy left for you in the world when we get rid of the toxicity that was holding us back, controlling us. Remember, abuse is about power and control and making sure that we didn't have any power and control, even if they led us to believe that they gave it to us now and then. Really, they didn't. It was always their power, their suggestion, their ideas, their sabotage, and we didn't see it, but we felt something was off. And now this next chapter is about us gaining it back, understanding and knowing the signs and the symptoms of how to repair it, how to move forward, and how to become whole again. Because they couldn't take it all away completely. We found out whether we were lucky enough for them to leave us and show us who they were, or we had to struggle leaving before they discarded us. Either way, it's painful. Hard to believe that someone we once loved was nothing but a mirage. But we can come out better and stronger instead of weaker. Instead of bitter, we can become better. Remember, all of those traits are positive ones. We can rebuild them back and give it to those who deserve. But remember, we have to give it to ourselves first. Like a banking account. Give to yourself first so you don't become void. That is what the narcissist is. Void of all those things. And we know what it's like to be with someone who's void of all those things. And they tried to turn it around so that we would be void too. But now we know better, so we can do better. You've got this. I believe in you. Ta-ta for now. We'll see you again next time. For more information and more support, see the links below